the founder of the Beautiful Mind Academy. At our academy, we're on a mission to unlock the potential of every single learner. From personalized tutoring in math, language, science, and BCBA exam prep, we're here to make education an inspiring and transformative journey. So join us today. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you are looking for more explanations on the 5th edition task list. And today we're going to be looking at schedules of reinforcement. At any point, if you do have additional questions, feel free to leave a comment below and I will be happy to answer you. If you are looking for more of an individualized one-on-one session, I can offer tutoring sessions Monday to Saturday. You can give me a call using my phone number, or you can email me using the information on the screen. And so let's get started. The first question we ask: what are schedules of reinforcement? So schedules of reinforcement refer to specific patterns or arrangements by which reinforcement is delivered following a behavior. These schedules play a crucial role in shaping and maintaining behaviors. With that being said, when we are writing programs or working with learners, we do have to make sure we are following the program write-up. So when it does tell us to use, let's say, an FR1 schedule, there are reasons why we put these schedules in place, okay? When we look at the schedules of reinforcement, we always look at continuous, intermittent, and extinction. Okay, continuous is what we are what we're referring to when we say an FR schedule, so a fixed ratio schedule, okay, where every single response or every single behavior is being reinforced. Then we're going to look at intermittent schedules and we will look at extinction, okay? So these are these schedules of reinforcement, starting with continuous. So in a continuous reinforcement schedule, every occurrence of the target behavior is reinforced. This means that each time the behavior occurs correctly, reinforcement is provided, okay? When do we use continuous reinforcement? Usually an FR1 schedule or continuous reinforcement is often used in the initial stages of teaching new behaviors, okay? It helps establish and strengthen the association between the behavior and the consequence quickly, okay? So anytime we have a new program, we baseline that program and we do notice that our learner is having some challenges, we always want to start off with a FR1, aka continuous. Okay, so an example of this would be if we're teaching imitation skills and we say do this and we clap and the learner claps, right away we give that token. Okay, we say do this and we're touching our nose and the learner touches their nose, right away we give them a token. Okay, we also have to keep in mind when we give that delivery, it should be very, very quick. So right when the correct response happens, that's when we're giving that token and that's when we're giving praise. So we need to make sure that we are praising and providing reinforcement immediately. Intermittent schedules, these refer to some occurrences of the behavior are reinforced, but some aren't. So this can be based on the number of responses or the passage of time. So we're going to look at different schedules. We're going to look at ratio schedules and we're going to look at interval schedules. Okay. When do we use intermittent schedules? We use these, intermittent reinforcement is frequently employed to maintain and strengthen behaviors over the long term. It helps prevent extinction, the decrease in the frequency of a behavior when reinforcement is no longer provided, and promotes behavior persistence. So, in simpler terms, what we're referring to here is After our continuous schedule, we eventually need to make sure that our reinforcement schedule is as natural to the natural environment as it gets, because it's very unrealistic to continuously praise for things, right? And this extends outward. In public school, we don't see that. At work, we don't see that. So we need to program for this as well. We need to think to ourselves, well, after continuous praise, we need to fade out the schedule, which means intermittent comes next. So we don't want to go from continuous to extinction. Rather, we want to do a slow fade where we're lengthening out when reinforcement is delivered. So intermittent schedules do a really good job with that. So once we have behaviors that are maintaining and behaviors that become part of the learner's repertoire, that's when we start to introduce intermittent schedules. Okay, now there are 4 different intermittent schedules. Let's dig into what fixed and variable mean first, then we'll get into ratio versus interval. When we see the word fixed, it means a set number. Variable is all about variability and changes, so it's not a set number, and reinforcement comes at random times. Ratio is associated with the number of responses, and interval is associated with time. Okay, and I did include in brackets that time could be days, time can be days and timings. Okay, so now when we are mixing these words together, we have fixed ratio. So fixed, a set number, ratio being responses. Okay, so this means that reinforcement is delivered after a fixed and predetermined number of responses. For example, in a fixed ratio of 5, FR5, reinforcement is given every 5th response. Fixed interval, okay, same thing, is a set number, but this time interval looks at timings. This means that reinforcement is delivered for the first response after a fixed and predetermined amount of time has passed since the last reinforcement. For example, in a fixed interval of 2 minutes, so an FI2, reinforcement is provided for the first response after 2 minutes have elapsed. Okay? Variable ratio. Variable is, again, though, that changing, that's not a set number. So we're looking at an average. Reinforcement is delivered after an average number of responses. Okay, but the exact number will vary and it's unpredictable. So for example, in a variable ratio of 5, so a VR5, reinforcement might be given after 5 responses. It might be given after 3 responses. It might be 4 responses, okay? The idea here is the learner doesn't know, okay? Variable interval, reinforcement is delivered for the first response after an average amount of time has passed, but the exact time varies. If we are looking at the example of VI, variable interval 2, reinforcement will be given after approximately 2 minutes. So it might be 1.5 minutes, it might be 2 minutes. Again, the learner doesn't know. Okay, so when we're looking at, again, fixed, a number that is set, variable, just like if we were looking at graphs that have a lot of variability, we're looking at that up and down, we're looking at not a set number. Ratio always is correlated with responses, whereas interval is always associated with time. So something that I really like to do with scenario questions when we are looking at schedules of reinforcement, I like to look at one, is it a set number or is it variable? Okay, that's going to be my first question to myself, so I can then figure out, is it fixed or variable? Then I'm going to be looking at, does this question involve responses ratio, or does it relate to time, which is interval? The idea with scenario questions is picking them apart and asking yourself these questions and going through a mental checklist with yourself to determine if it's fixed versus variable or ratio versus interval. Extinction, in the context of reinforcement schedules, refers to the process of gradually reducing and eventually eliminating the delivery of reinforcement. It involves withholding our consequence. So when we look at extinction, it means that behaviors no longer produce reinforcement. And the purpose of extinction is to weaken and eventually eliminate behaviors that are undesirable. Okay, so if we have behaviors that are happening too frequently, right, we want to put that on extinction. So we don't want any type of reinforcement to it. So let's go through some of these questions. Number one, a factory worker receives a bonus for every 4th completed product. So when we're looking at our schedules of reinforcement, what type of reinforcement schedule are we working with in example number 1? Okay, the answer here is FR4, fixed ratio 4. And how I got that is, okay, we ask ourselves, is this time-based or response-based? And he has to, or this factory worker needs to complete something. He needs to, for a completed product. So this is a response. Okay, so we know here that we're not working with time. There's no indication here of time. Then we ask ourselves, is it every response or is it variable? Okay, so that's going to determine our fixed versus variable. And it says here for every 4th completed product. So we are looking at here. Okay, fixed because it is a number, a set number. And then we are looking at ratio because it's a number of responses. So in this case, it would be a fixed ratio 4. Question number 2. A supervisor checks in on employees' work approximately every 3 hours, providing positive feedback when they are on track. So for example 2, what schedule of reinforcement would this be illustrating? So for this one, if you guys did mention anything about variable interval 3, that would be the correct response. Variable because it is mentioning the word approximately, which indicates that it's not fixed. Okay, it can happen, reinforcement can happen anytime, and interval because it does mention our hour. Okay, and the number 3 because it indicates the number here. Okay, so for questions 3, 4, 5, and 6, feel free to pause the video and comment down below on your answers. So in the comment section, you can just write number 3 and what the schedule of reinforcement is. Same thing for 4, 5, and 6. And I will be more than happy to provide feedback and let you know if you are correct. All right, well, that is the end of our video. I hope that this brings some clarity to the topic of schedules of reinforcement. And like mentioned earlier, if you do have additional questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to message me, text, you do have my phone number now, or simply comment down below and I will get back to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate your time and effort. Good luck on that exam. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.